Okay. Welcome, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me today and wish you a happy International Women's Day. That's why we're all here, to celebrate together. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my book. We're going to talk a little bit about career development, and hopefully you will walk away with some insights after this hour together. Most of us, it's noon, lunchtime, but there's definitely people in Spain and New Zealand and other places. So thank you wherever you are in the world for joining us today, whether it's early or late or lunchtime. I am recording this, so hopefully, you're okay with that. And if you could mute yourself, I might mute you if there gets to be some background noise, but other than that, we should be good to go. I am Paula Brand, and I know many of you, so it's really nice to see familiar names, but those of you who I don't know yet, I look forward to getting to know you a little bit more in this hour session. So let's just get started because it's lunchtime. We only got an hour, and I do want to get through some things here. So let's jump in. I'm going to just start us with a question just for fun, and we're going to mostly use the chat box. And again, I understand if you can't use the chat box if you're on audio only, because we have some people in airports waiting for planes and things like that. So let me just ask you, there we go. What does career development mean to you? And I'll give you a minute to just dwell on that. I know we have a lot of career people in the room, so we might get some interesting answers. But let me give you a minute to just think about that question and type in your answer in the chat box, please. Hi, Susie and Joyce and Elda. I see that you joined us. If things get loud in your background, I'll ask you to mute yourself. Other than that, so we're looking at, what does career development mean to you? Renee said growth. Nancy said an ongoing journey. And I know you are both at different places in your career, so that seems appropriate. Another journey. I love career journey as a catchphrase or a tagline. And so Cindy is using journey. A lot of people are using journey. Lorene choosing, and I think you mean maturing or naturing a line of work over a period of years. I've never heard that word, naturing. Did you make that up, Lorene? Learning new things. And I'm saying these out loud again because I know some people told me that they could only join by audio and they can't really see the chat. So I'm just going to say some of them out loud. Eileen said self-awareness. Claire said learning new things. Nicole said fulfilling your potential and helping others do the same. And I'm very impressed that you can chat, Nicole. You'll have to teach me later how to chat when you're only on audio, because I don't know how to do that. Consuelo said several careers through a lifetime, which we all know is the truth right now. Lorene said nurturing. Okay, so choosing and nurturing a line of work over a period of years. Yes. Sarah said exploring my experiences and talents to find what's a good fit for me now. Well, I'm glad you're here because we're going to talk about that for sure. And Joyce said self-development. Okay, thank you, everyone. Linda said paying attention to what works for you. And again, I guess I feel like it's kind of cheating. We have a lot of career professionals in the room, so we got a lot of good answers. But thanks to everyone for answering that. Ever evolving, said Carla. Okay, I'm going to stop getting distracted with the chat. Thanks for your answers. And let's move on to, since it is International Women's Day, let's just, there we go, talk a little bit about a little International Women's Day herstory. And many of you may know this maybe is why you celebrate it. But in 1908, some New York City women workers gathered to protest child labor, sweatshops, and voting rights for women. So that was sort of the official beginning. And then in 1945, the UN made its first charter affirming the principle of equality between men and women. But it wasn't until 1975 that the UN observed its first official International Women's Day. And now we celebrate it every year. And it's always March 8th, no matter what year it is, no matter what day of the week it is always March 8th. And I am just taking a second to mute a couple of you just because I hear some background noises. Great, okay. And then at the bottom, I just put a couple of websites that may interest you to find out more about International Women's Day. There's two major groups that I know about. If you know about others, let me know or text me, email me later, because I do collect this kind of information. And the internationalwomensday.com is based in the US. I haven't been able to figure out what city or state they're in, but they run things in the US. And then iwda.org is based out of Australia. So there's two different, I was hoping maybe one day they'd collaborate and make one hashtag, but they each have their own hashtags, and you can see what those are for this year. So that just a little bit about International Women's Day. Just curious, how many of you knew something on that slide? Uh, just curious. Just you could just put a yes or a no. Yes if you knew something on that slide. No if you knew nothing on that slide. Okay, couple of yeses, couple of nos. Excellent. Okay, good. Because I was hoping I wasn't boring people with that. Awesome. Okay, and hello, Elda. I see your hello. Okay, so let's again. I'm going to keep trying to move through just to get us to stay on time. I will say this quickly. I'm a career coach. I run Brand Career Management. I started it in 2011 part-time when I worked in workforce development with many of these lovely women who are on today, and started it full-time 2015. My background is workforce development, human resources, and career advising. And I do have a master's in organizational industrial psychology, which is kind of like the closest master's to careers beyond career counseling itself. And I help individuals and I work with organizations on all facets of career management. So, assessment to job search, to branding, to networking, and everything in between, including LinkedIn. And I am going to talk about my book. So I did spend 7 years creating this book. So I am going to talk about it. This is it. If you don't already have it, it's called The Purple Parachute, A Woman's Guide to Navigating the Winds of Career Change. And I'll share a link at the end where you can buy a copy. And if you buy a copy through me, I will sign it and I will put in this cool bookmark that my graphic designer friend created to help you remember the Astor model, which we will talk about shortly. But I created this book really to demystify, and I remember that word from POAC, so excuse me for kind of stealing that word a little, but it's true. I created this book to demystify the career management and really more importantly, the transition process, because it seems to intimidate a lot of people. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's simple in some ways. I mean, there is a process, and if you follow the process, usually it works. I also wanted to share resources, and the book has a ton of resources. Most are free, a few, and it will tell you where they are paid resources. It'll mention that. There's an index in the back so that you can easily find things that you read on page 122. And to be honest, I've been using the index myself because it's helping me find things that I'm looking for. So there's tons of resources in it. And my main reason for writing the book was to equal the playing field. And that's because that's something I really believe. That's a value, a passion that I have. And that's why it seemed to make sense to do this event today, because that's really the goal of International Women's Day. And last year I had been doing something for International Women's Day, I think 4 years in a row, sometimes always with another colleague, at least one. And last year I didn't do it because I was living this traveling life that I'm living, and I really missed it. So I thought, this is perfect. I will be able to do this, help people, share resources, equal the playing field, and celebrate International Women's Day. And then obviously a big reason for writing a book is that you'll reach more people, because there's only so many people I will see one-on-one in my lifetime or even in group trainings. And so this was my way to spread the word, hopefully faster, to more people, to help women make smoother career transitions. And if anyone's curious, I know one person on the event today is from Westchester. This was the Anderson's Library, the first book I held, the first copy I got in my hands, because they were shipped to Anderson's, and that's what the picture is of. Carla said she needs her bookmark. Well, if you bought it through Amazon, you didn't get a bookmark, but if you let me know, I will mail you one. So no problem. Okay, we're going to kind of get into the book content here, and we're going to do an activity towards the end, and I just want everyone to agree. And I would say if you don't agree with this, please log off. because these are the boundaries we're going to go by today. And just mainly to keep everything positive and be kind to yourself. You don't have to share any answers for the activity, but I will ask people to share. And if you want to, that's great, but only share when comfortable. And I want to create a supportive and non-judgmental environment. And thankfully, I know 80% of the people on this Zoom. So I trust that probably didn't need to say this, but it's always smart to just get this out, right? So let me ask you a question using the chat box again, and ask you, where are you right now in your job search? And I will read the answers out loud for those of you who don't have the visual. There's 5 answers. A is I'm in job search. B is I'm currently in career transition. C is I'm happily employed. D is I'm seeking a change in roles. And E is I'm taking a career break. So I'm just curious to see where people are. There's a lot of C's. That's awesome, happily employed. And thankfully, it's a lot of career people. So I always say, if you're a career person and you're not happily employed, you're not in the right profession, right? So at least 1 A in job search, a couple of B's currently in career transition, a couple of C and D's. I don't think I see any E's. Oh, 1 E, 1 E. Ilda. Okay, and yeah, so I think there's someone across the whole gamut, I guess, is what we really, yeah, Nancy said none of the above, rewired. That's the word I was trying to think of. I knew you had a clever word for sort of retirement, or I've heard unretirement, and I've heard so many cool words for that, but rewired I like. And F, okay, Susie created a new one, considering a change or supplement. Okay, so I'll have to add that to my slide for next time. Excellent, thank you. I think all of you will get something out of this, because no matter where you are in career transition, the model that I created should help you once you figure out where you are in the model. So we'll jump into that soon, but I want to start out by just sharing a story about miserable Madeline. And she's a real person. Of course, her name isn't Madeline, but she was miserable. And so I made up this like avatar name for her scenario. And I do want to just share a little bit about it, because I helped her, the book helped her. And I think her situation is pretty common. So she wasn't a gloomy and downtrodden person. She was miserable because she was miserable in her job. She had done her job for 14 years. She was an award-winning teacher, so she loved her job for many, many years. But towards the end of the 14 years, she was getting a little burned out, being asked a little too much, and not feeling supported by the administration. And as you can imagine, those things colliding is kind of like a perfect storm to make you want to quit. And that's sort of what happened, or that is what happened. But that was a spoiler alert. She was doing well in her job. She was excellent. She was a smart woman. She is a smart woman, and she's very competent as a teacher, but she didn't have a clue how to transition careers. And I think that's true for many people. You might be a great accountant, project manager, attorney, but you just don't know how to pivot when the time comes that you might have to do that, or you're starting to consider it. And it creates a lot of anxiety, because you're just like, you have this angst of something is wrong, but you're not sure how to go about fixing it. And that was her situation. And then one day, it became her tipping point. It was a bleak day in Baltimore, so the weather's not so great. It's winter. She had an incident in her classroom, and up till that point, the principal had been definitely bending to rich and powerful parents at this private school. And she had this incident in her classroom, and a misunderstanding. One of the parents was really being unreasonable about it. And when the principal came to talk to Madeline, it was very obvious to Madeline that the principal was not going to support her and back her up. And she was going to take the parent's side. And Madeline blurted out, "I'm going to quit at the end of the school year." And as soon as she said it, she had a huge, flash of panic. Oh my God, what did I just do? But she didn't backtrack, and she didn't take it back, because she knew in her gut that needed to happen. No matter how it happened, she had to get out of that job, because it was just killing her. So she had heard about instructional design, at UMBC, which is University of Maryland, Baltimore County. She'd heard about this master's program. Yeah, Lorraine's saying she fired her employer. That's exactly what she did. She was just fed up. And again, she was great at her job, but it was getting overdone. And she recognized that. So she went to this open house at UMBC for instructional design. She didn't really know what it was, but she looked into it. She liked what she heard. She applied, she got accepted, and she was on her way. I think it's a 2-year program. During the school, she was taking some part-time jobs to make some income. And one of them happened to be a part-time internship in instructional design, which was great. And it even turned into a full-time job, but there's only 5 people at the employer, and the employer wasn't really interested in like training her and kind of grooming her for that new career. So she knew it wasn't the end of that path, even though it was the first official job that she got in instructional design. And she was kind of struggling for about a year. She had a bunch of different project-oriented positions that would, were short-term. She saw me about 8 months into this, and she was really frustrated. She was worried that she had made the wrong choice. She was starting to doubt, could she get a full-time job with little experience? And she came to me, and she, interestingly enough, is an English teacher, or was, and so she actually helped me edit the book. But the main way that I think the book helped her and that my work with her helped was there were a few specific things that I helped her with. One was she wasn't networking enough. And of course, I could say that probably about everyone, including myself. No one's ever networking enough. Oh, sorry, I just made the slides go. There we go. She wasn't networking enough, so she had to step that up a bit, which she did very willingly. And she wasn't confident in this switch because she was seeing teaching and instructional design as 2 completely different things, like truck driving and massage therapy. But I pointed out to her that it's really very similar. The skill set is similar. One is adults, one are young adults, one is in person, one is mostly online. Pretty much instructional design by definition is pretty much online learning. So a lot of the skills were the same. And once she embraced that idea, her confidence, just went through the roof, which was great. She also didn't have a portfolio, and because instructional design is very into, making videos and again, online material, she needed a portfolio to show off the work she had done through school and in her internship. So she did that. She updated her resume. And ultimately, I think she said that my biggest help to her was to realize she didn't need to settle. So like she didn't have to just take the first job, that she really could get, she had prepared, she'd done the right thing, she had the skills, and that made all the difference. And basically now she's an instructional designer at Hopkins. She's been there a couple of years. She loves it. And she now knows that this was all the right move to make. But of course, when you're living it, you start to doubt yourself sometimes. So that's Madeline's story. Let me talk about the model from the book. I call it the Astor Career Model. You can see it on the screen. I also have this lovely board behind me that I had made. And they're saying the same thing. And let me just talk you a little bit through the model and how it fits to the book content. So we start with assess, and I always say start here because you can't skip assess. If you don't know your interests, values, personality, those things, I call them your vines, which I'll show you in the next slide. If you don't know those things about yourself, that is definitely has to be your starting point. And that is really chapters 2 through 7, because it's such an important foundational piece of career development, career management, that the whole first third of the book is devoted to that. And then chapters 8 and 9 go into seeking out information, and this is when you do your informational interviews and your online research. You go to places like ONET Online and find out how much would you get paid, what education do you need, is there are there jobs for that where you live, type of thing. And then testing out can be in many different ways. Sometimes you are able to volunteer for a job, sometimes you aren't, but there's always ways to test out some roles to basically make sure that you know what you're getting into. And then chapters 9 and 10, actually 10 and 11, are on execution. And so there's one chapter just on job search and one chapter on creating your career plan, if you will. And then chapter 12 is repeat, because as we all know, we are going to have multiple career transitions in our lives. And as women, we will have more than the average, person, or definitely more than men, because of so many things: childcare, elder care, this, you name it, the reasons. So we will definitely we'll have to repeat this process. And the beauty of this model is that you can use it wherever you are. When you feel that angst, when you see a transition coming down the road, you can go back to this model, you can figure out where you are, and you can move yourself through the circle. It's not a perfect linear circle. It's written as a circle and the arrows go one way, but sometimes you might backtrack a little. You might test something out, decide that it's not the right thing, so you might have to go back to the seek piece to find out something new to test. And yeah, so and then the chapter 13 is on networking. It's not really in the model, but it's such a foundation for anything related to career development management that you have to have that networking piece. So I like to summarize the Astra career model. You could say it's know, grow, and sow your seeds for the future, if you're trying to sum it up into 3 words. But as you all who know me well know that I can't sum it up into 3 words, so I made a model. Okay, and then Susie said, "You name it, you know it." Okay, thank you for that affirmation. Let me go to the next slide and just elaborate a little bit on the assess piece, because these are the things you need to know about yourself before moving into seek and test and the other parts of the model. So your values, of course, are huge, and I'm not going to get into that because so many people understand that who are on this call. But I'll just say this for those of you who aren't in career: if your values don't align, your work values don't align with your life values, with your career, it's going to cause problems for you, and you're going to have to address that. Interests, of course, what sparks your interest? Are you a creative type? Are you someone who likes to help people? Things like that. And an interest type could be also categorized as a Holland code. And then I call it natural disposition because, of course, I had to make it fit into something gardening and make it vines, but really it's your personality. And then exceptional strengths. So that is your superpowers. And we're going to go into an activity that might help you tap into that. And finally, your skills. And those could be transferable skills. Like in Madeline's case, she clearly had teaching was a transferable skill that she could use and take from teaching to instructional design. And that helped her make a smoother transition. But sometimes it might not be so obvious. Sometimes your transferable skill might be management or communication or something that is more broad, and you might make a more steep transition or a more dramatic transition from one role to another, and that's okay. Okay, I'm talking a lot. Do you have any questions before I move to the next slide? I'm just going to pause for a second and give you a moment before we jump into an activity. Any questions, or I don't know, for those of you who are in the career, any challenges to my model or any doubts about it? Sarah said it makes it more manageable. Agreed. And that was kind of the whole point of it, because it is overwhelming when you have that realization that what you're doing is not correct for you, at this moment in your life. It's not the right match. Then it's hard, but you don't know, you're not a career professional. And honestly, even career professionals sometimes get stuck because we're too close to it. Like we know it so well, and now we're applying it to ourselves, and that's hard. But yeah, it creates a lot of anxiety. You'll feel it in your gut. You'll know something's amiss, but you might not be able to put your finger on it. You might think it's a bad boss. You might think it's a bad work environment or a bad commute, but it's often is just the alignment between you and your role. I'm glad you like the acronym, Linda. I worked hard to come up with one. And now, I have 2. So I'm going to still work on some more. Okay, let's jump into an activity. Thank you, Lorene, liking the simplicity of the model. Right, I still worry it's a little too complicated. I know it seems simple to a lot of us who talk about this stuff every day. I'd be curious to hear more from people who aren't in the career field if it's not too overwhelming. Okay, Sarah asked a question. Does your book address when to have conversations with your current organization about the transition out? Actually, it does not. And that's a good, that's, I'm going to take a note because I've already taken notes for the second edition. So that's a good one. I will say quickly here that I, it depends on the person's situation. So it's hard to give a blanket answer for that. In general, I'd say if you trust your organization and you trust your boss, then you could probably be more transparent about it. But if you don't, if that trust isn't there, I'm not sure that I would give them the heads up that that's what's coming. That's my very short answer. Of course, it would be nuanced if I knew someone's specific situation, but that's the basic because it can shoot you in the foot. You know, if you're too honest and you have a crappy boss, they could use it against you and they could, you know, start to make a case of you're not doing this right and you're not meeting your goals. And really it's just because they're afraid that you're going to leave before they let you go. It's unfortunate, but that happens. I've also worked with people who have great bosses and are super supportive and they can be totally honest about it. You know, they tell them, I have a reference calling you. And that's like that. Of course, that's the best situation you can have, but that's not, you can't expect that to be the situation. So I always recommend honesty, not lying. At the same time, I would say you don't have to reveal everything to everyone. And this is one of those situations where you might want to, you know, keep your you know, hands, if you want to do a card analogy, you know, a card game analogy, keep your hand to yourself until it's the right time to reveal that. Okay, thank you. That's good. I'm glad that you understand that answer, Sarah. And thanks for the feedback from Suzanne and Nancy. Excellent. Okay, let's try an activity. I want to ask you to grab a piece of paper. I'll give you a minute to do this. And it doesn't have to be a fancy piece of paper. But a piece of paper would be useful rather than, say, a phone where you're texting. But however, you can draw 3 columns is up to you. And we're going to ask you to only use positive words because this is a positive and affirming hour for International Women's Day. We're not going to dwell on the negative. And I'll give you some instructions in a minute, but I want you to I'll just give everyone a minute to just make sure that you do have a pen and paper handy. And I know some of you have probably done this exercise, so bear with me if you have. Carla, I missed your comment. It said career professionals are married to our work and need an outsider to help us see ourselves. Yeah. Yes, I think that's true of most you know, experts often can't see their own situation as when they need to be the expert for themselves. So that's pretty true. Okay, everyone ready? Have a piece of paper? Just give me like a Y or a yes, so I have a sense that everyone's ready to move forward. And I'll do that. Got it. Okay, only Y's, so that's good. Excellent. Okay, ready. Very good. Let's begin by, in the column number 1, I am going to have you write 8 words that describe you. This is you talking about you. 8 words, positive words. And again, you don't have to share this, so please don't filter. Please be totally honest with yourself. You'll get more out of it that way. And I'm just going to set a timer for 2 minutes. I think that's probably enough. If people need more time, you can tell me, but I'm just going to set my timer for 2 minutes and stop talking. You've got about a minute left. Okay, 20 more seconds. Eight words to describe yourself, positive words. If you're done, I'm gonna stop the timer before the noise goes off because it's pretty much done. Just give me a quick D for done, or okay, if okay, good. So most of you, I'm just trying to get a sense. Thumbs up, whatever it takes. Yes, okay, everyone's done. Excellent. Okay. Now it gets a little harder. Column number 2, I want you to think of 4 words. I'm going to give you less words because I know it gets harder as we go along. 4 words that a former boss or current boss would use to describe you. But the trick is you cannot use the same word that you just put in the column for your 8 words describing yourself. So 4 new positive words used to describe you that your boss or a former boss or current boss would say about you. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes and ask you to do that. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Okay, Renee just said the second column was much easier, which is very interesting. Usually it gets harder, but maybe it's because it's not you talking about you. So maybe you have bosses who give you, reviews and things like that, and you've had good bosses. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? I'm not going to hold it. I see a D, and I see Renee saying it was easier, and there's only 45 seconds left. So I'm going to just say, unless someone's like, please, I need more time, I'm going to move on to the next column. And yeah, Carla is agreeing with Renee. It is easier when you have good bosses, harder when maybe you're self-employed and you don't have someone giving you that feedback, or you have a bad boss that doesn't really give positive feedback or any feedback. That can make it a little harder. Okay, last column, third column. I want you to, sorry, before I say this, Nancy said harder to come up with the additional 4 words. Okay, so for some of you it's harder, for some of you it was easier. It's probably depends on the context of, again, the type of bosses that you've had. Let's move to the third column, which is going to be 4 new words. Again, can't repeat any from the previous 2 columns. 4 new words that a friend or colleague would use to describe you. And since you guys are so speedy, I'm just going to use 1 minute for this time and then just check in with you guys. So 1 minute to come up with 4 new positive words that a colleague or a friend would use to describe you. Okay, so that was a minute. Does anyone need more time? Okay, Linda's having a hard time for this column. Others might be too. So just type in more time if you need more time. And if 3 people say that, I will give you another minute. Elda's saying she can only think of 2 words. Elda, I'll give you one since I know you. Creative, but you probably already came up with that. Or caring, or imaginative, good photographer. Any of those? Carla's saying that was harder too. No one's saying more time, but no one's saying they're done either. So give me a little bit more feedback. Tell me if you need more time. Linda, thoughtful. If you haven't already put that one in. Also caring, also conscientious. I think those are some words I would think about you, Linda. Okay, lots of D's. So easier than column 2. Okay, so I think it just depends. It kind of depends where you are, which column might be easier or harder. I can see you're texting me, Carla, but I'm not going to read it right now. Okay, so let's go to a little debrief. And here's some questions I just want you to respond to. You don't have to respond to all of them, but just let's start with, what's one word that you're willing to share that you think really fits you? And anyone can chime in the chat box. Creative. Okay, so Elda, you probably already had that one. I doubt that I gave that one to you. Attuning, that's a good word. I like that word. I'm not used to that word. Claire said supportive. Excellent. Empathetic for Suzanne. Yes, Linda, I agree with you. You are all in. If you commit, you're kind of like me that way. Like if we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it. Nancy, I agree. You are super energetic. Nicole said organized. Joy said generous. Jackie said resilient. And it's interesting because I know many of you, and I think these are so true for you. Eileen, unfinished. Interesting. Okay. Insightful, level-headed. Yeah, these are all, I don't see any that don't. I'll have to talk to you, Eileen, more about your unfinished, because I think I can feel that for you, but we haven't talked in a while. So, and then Carla, you're definitely focused, 100%. Okay, so thank you for sharing that word. I hope that maybe these might be some clues to your superpowers, just to the thought that the word that you were willing to share might be the one you feel strongest about, which might give an indication of it being a superpower. What did you discover during this exercise? Anyone willing to? I know it's like hard to chat. You could unmute yourself if it's easier to speak. But what did you discover or rediscover about yourself? I know some of you already said in the chat, this is hard, this is easy, so we won't focus on that question. Sarah said it's much easier to do this than it was even last year. Excellent. I'm happy to hear that. You're getting more in tune with your strengths. That's awesome. Yeah.
Elda, yeah, I was going to say it's a good day for me to be doing this, to have some positive reinforcement. So I kind of enjoy it. Thank you.
Excellent. Maybe we can talk later about unpack that comment, but I'm glad that we can give you this positivity today.
Thank you.
Let's see. Linda said, nice to recall what others have said. I remember that, having that feeling when I did this activity for the first time, which, by the way, kudos to Maca, because I borrowed this activity from Maca, from Connie Pritchard, who, of course, the whole point of the workshop was to give us ideas of things we could implement in workshops. So it's all legit. But yeah, I remember feeling that too. Suzanne said, I feel better about myself and stronger. Yay! That's the whole point of all this, right? Celebrate our strengths. We're women. We're international. Good exercise. Good to remember. Yeah. Connie, she was, gave us the PowerPoint and basically gave us all the resources to implement this on our own. Cindy said, what I am willing to change and what I am not. Okay, so clarity on what you like most about yourself, I think, is what you're saying, and what you're not, what's what's the word I'm thinking of? Non-negotiable. Eileen said, I discovered that I have so much more to accomplish. Okay, that makes you unfinished. And Claire said, good reminders. Good. And I think, Claire, you had said, I think you were in job search. So this is probably, hopefully even more powerful for you, because when you're in job search, that's one way that you can use this information in interviews and resumes, even if it's just one word in a career summary at the top of your resume. But they could be very telling. Like conscientious is a telling word, and so is a lot of the other words that were used. Energetic, organized, generous. I think that might not be as much on a resume. Like, I don't know, employers want to necessarily hire someone who's generous. They might be worried about that. Like, oh, she's so generous with her time, she's gonna not focus on her job. So you got to be careful. Resilient is a great word. I think it's starting to get a little overused. So you have to be careful of that too. I definitely wouldn't put unfinished on a resume, because then they might be worried that you don't know what you want, right? But certain words like empathetic and supportive and attuning would be great for like jobs where you're helping people and you really need to understand their situation. So hopefully this was helpful to you. I'm looking to just see if there's any other comments. Were there any words that came that surprised you? I did this activity a couple months ago, and it was interesting. Someone had like a moment in this. It was in person, and someone realized they were in the wrong profession. Actually, two people, because the words they came up with were not really aligned with what they were doing. And they both had like a serious aha moment, which was pretty cool. Lorene said accessible. That was your surprising word. Okay. Carla had no surprises. Okay, well, we're not going to have aha moments, every time. Curious. That's funny, because Eileen, I think of you as a very curious person, meaning you have curiosity, and so I'm surprised that was surprising to you. Elda said, just found another word, engage easily. Okay, that's two words, but we'll give it to you. It could be a word or keyword phrase, right? And attuning was aha moment for you. That's interesting. Okay, because I found it to be an unusual word to come up with. It's not something I use every day, and maybe you don't either. Maybe that's what surprised you about it. Excellent. And yeah, it's hard when you're trying to come up with the synonyms when you're on column 3. It's like, oh my God, I already used all these words. What's another word for thoughtful? Patient came up, which would not have been true of me in my 20s. Okay, so Linda, you've matured, and that's of course true as well. Like, some superpowers are going to be with you your whole life. I'm an organized person. I don't do well in chaos. I'm not suddenly going to become someone who's great with chaos. But some things you develop over time, and some things you burn out on over time. So skills and superpowers sometimes do ebb and flow. And so I can see that, Linda, where you have become more patient. Confident is what Suzanne said. I don't feel it, but people think I am. I think you're confident. Miss Playwriter, written more than one play, award-winning plays. So yeah, but we don't always feel it. Just like Elda was saying today, she's not feeling her best. So I think all of you are awesome women. I know many of you, and I, there's not a slacker among us. So I hope that this event and this exercise really helped you re-engage with your strengths and your skills, and that it sets your International Women's Day off on a great start. We're going to wrap it up. It's 12:47, and I just have a couple more slides. So one was questions, and I think you have been good about asking your questions as we've been going along, but I'm just going to pause for a minute and see if anyone has any questions for me. And then the last slide kind of has all the I guess social media stuff. And let me, while you're thinking about if you have any questions, I'm going to share 2 links in the chat. So one is, and I thought it would let me cut and paste this. There we go. For anyone who has not already purchased the book, this is, did it pop up? Oh, I gotta hit return. Okay, why is it? Oh, because it's trying to send it to Carla, and give me 1 second. Everyone in the meeting. Okay. So I just posted a link, which is http:// www.purple-parachute.com. that is a landing page on my website, which has links, a link to Amazon, a link to Barnes and Noble, and also a link to buy it through me, which I said, if you do that, I will sign it. I will, inscribe it to you and add the fun bookmark. So that's the link to go to any of those things. purple-parachute.com will get you there. Linda asked a question. Before I answer Linda's question, I'm going to just cut and paste one more link and share it with you. So this next link that I'm sharing, I had a book, like a workbook created that took all of there's tons of questions and exercises in the book. And I pulled together all of them in a PDF document, which you can access for free. You do have to give your email up. But I don't spam, so you're safe. I send like one thing out a month, a blog, sometimes travel blog, sometimes a career blog. So if you want to access that, just click on that link, fill in your email, and you will be able to download the workbook. And it's a nice supplement if you have the book. Even if you don't have the book, you're kind of getting the crux of the book, if you will. So check out those two links. And two questions came in. So what common themes do you find in working with women? I would say that the biggest theme is lack of confidence. And there's so many theories about what causes it and how to fight that. I will say this, someone just wrote, actually someone on this webinar reminded me that 2 years ago, I hosted an International Women's Day event on imposter syndrome. And she was saying she watched that and that it helped her. She's about to start a new job. And so, not everyone who's lacking confidence has imposter syndrome, but they certainly are related. And so you might want to check out on my YouTube channel, that video from, I guess, 2 years ago. It was called Imposter Syndrome, and there was some subtitle that I can't remember right now. But lack of confidence, I would say, is the common theme among most women I work with. Even really successful women just it seems like no matter what your level of success is, we all have confidence issues. I hate to say that, but that's my observation. Humility, Carla said, and I was at that. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Elda. You might have to type in a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead.
I was at the webinar or whatever it is about the imposter syndrome.
Okay, right. Okay,
Yeah,
now I see what you're saying. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people said it really helped them.
Yeah.
And I was actually thinking about going back and watching it because the person who said it yesterday, just to kind of remember, like what was our, I think it was recognize, reframe, but there was another R. So yeah, thank you, Elda, for
Is that, where did you say that is? Where can you find that?
That is on my YouTube channel. So I'm sharing right now all of the URLs, if you will.
Right.
So the one, let's see, there's my email at top. The next one is the website that I put in the chat.
Okay.
Or you could take a picture of the QR code. That will take you to the landing page where you can purchase the book a few different ways. I did open an Instagram account. I was fighting it for so many years, and I opened one for the book. I would love it if you would follow it because I'm a slow starter and I haven't really made it personal. It's really all about the book. But yeah, if you could support me with that, that'd be great because it took me a long time to to commit to that. Awesome. Consuelo is going to the Women's March in Spain. Hooray! Okay, thank you for coming, and I hope to catch up with you soon. Carla said being too humble. Yeah, that's kind of, to me, well, I guess it's a little different than confidence, but they're also related. Just going back to the slide, there's the Facebook page, and to be honest, I really don't spend much time on Facebook, so please don't ever tell me some earth-shattering thing about yourself through Facebook because I'll find out 3 months later. The YouTube channel is right there, Elda. I don't think I can highlight it.
It's okay. Yeah,
okay.
I see it.
But that has a bunch of videos. The year before, 2 years in a row, 6 colleagues and I did International Women's Day events. So those are on there. And then 1 year I did something with Jess Ruth. We created 3 videos. And 1 year I did a Twitter event with Lynn Carroll, which isn't there because it's a Twitter event. So there's no video to it. And then I opened a LinkedIn page for my company. I haven't done too much with it yet, but I'm kind of experimenting. I read a cool book by Lanier Johnston, and her co-author is Michelle, I'm blanking on her name, Raymond, I think. I so apologize. If anyone knows the title of this book, please share it in the chat. But it's basically like managing your LinkedIn business page. And it's the first book on LinkedIn business pages that exists. It might be the only one. So Lanier Johnston, it's LYNNAIRE JOHNSTON, I believe. And so she got me to, I had opened it, but I hadn't done anything with it. So she motivated me to do that. And then the last link is for the workbook, which I already put in the chat because I knew you wouldn't be able to cut and paste from the screen. Okay, someone else said they have to go to a meeting. So thanks for showing up, Jackie. Thanks to everyone. It's 12:54. I'm sorry?
I said, thank you. I went to your Instagram and everybody has to go and look at that because it's the cutest picture of, is it the cookie? I don't know who it is. One of the Disney characters giving you the biggest hug.
Isn't that funny? Yes, that's Sully from Monsters Inc. And we went to Disney a few weeks ago, and that was, I thought that was a pretty funny picture. And since he had purple dots, I thought I could get away with this with the purple parachute. It's a little off topic, but so thank you. And Claire, that is a great book by Lanier and Michelle. And I think that's how you found your way to this event. So I appreciate Lanier for connecting us. You're welcome, Cindy. You're welcome, Nancy. And Linda, thank you. Anyone can reuse that activity. Connie Pritchard was the creator, or at least the person who introduced me to it, but it's a good activity. So feel free to reuse it as a career professional. If there's any other questions anyone has in the last 4 minutes, I will hang out here and wait to see. I hope for some of you, we can have a kind of sidebar conversation to catch up for those of you who I haven't talked to in a little while. And you're welcome. Everyone who's saying thanks. Yeah, I know it is. Yeah, I'll talk to you more about that later, Elda. Okay. Yes.
I'll stay on. I can stay on. Can you stay on a few minutes?
I can. I just need to stop recording. Yep. Okay. I'm so glad, Claire, that you found it useful to get up so early in New Zealand to participate with this, and that you think about your strengths in a new light. That really warms my heart.
Where in New Zealand are you?
I don't know where Claire is in New Zealand. I will let her answer. Dunedin. Okay, I've been to New Zealand. We spent 3 months there in 2003, and I loved Dunedin. Yeah, it's a beautiful country altogether. But I do remember Dunedin. We went to
the only place we went to was Queenstown, and it was divine. Just loved it.
Yes, adventure capital of the world.
Yeah.
Very good. Have a great day to you too, Sarah. Again, I just want to say thanks to everyone who showed up and participated and got something out of today. Happy International Women's Day to everyone out there, no matter where you are in the world. And I'm going to go ahead and hit, I'm going to stop recording, and gives me a second to do that. And then I will address anyone who's still on the event. Okay, I don't want to end the meeting. Okay, there we go. Thanks, everyone.